All right, I'm live. What's up? There's a lot. I say this every week, but there's a lot that we'll be going over today. I gotta change that notification. I know you guys hear it in the background, that Bernie saying rational national priorities, but it's just kind of distracting. Lots to go over today. And then at the end, of course, as always, I'll take questions and super chats. So you can get your super chats in now. You can get them in at the end. I also take super chats throughout the stream. So there's your warning, I guess. All right. So a lot of stuff, a lot of Bernie stuff. Actually, not as much Bernie stuff as usual, but I do have some Bernie stuff. A couple of British politics things, since we're moving in on a general election there on the 12th. What else do I got here? AOC, a couple of things involving AOC, including AOC schooling Pete Buttigieg, maybe my favorite story of the entire stream. Also an AOC rant on healthcare as a commodity, and a flashback on Bloomberg. Going to go over Bloomberg a little bit, and there's more. I mean, some of the later stories I really haven't prepped much, so we're just kind of going to watch a clip or read an article, but you'll see when we get there. All right, let's start with something nice and easy, as I like to do. Something nice and simple, because this came out this week. Bernie Sanders has released a new ad in Iowa, and it's about Big Us. Now, if you don't know what Big Us is, let me show you what Big Us is. So this is a pretty solid ad, I think. Actually, I might as well not even be on screen for this. I'll be back.
Bernie is a very rare egg in Washington. He's honest. Through his whole career, he has fought for our cases. Bernie fights for the average Joe. That's the thing I like about him the most. He's not there for Wall Street. He's not there for Hollywood. He's not there for big oil or big pharma or big anybody. It's Big Us. And I'm good with Big Us.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
All right. How about that? This ad I like. It's I mean, the reason why this ad is good is because it's targeted towards Iowa and targeted towards older generation voters. So this is where Bernie needs to grow his support. The young people are already with him. He has a very diverse young support base. But because a lot of people in older generations watch a lot of cable news, they are misinformed on these candidates and who actually would represent them and who can actually win their electability. So something like this will appeal to those older voters in Iowa. And look, Bernie also really, while this ad is good, he needs to talk more about electability, because that appears to be where there's a lot of misinformation about him. A lot of voters, as I said, because they watch a lot of cable news, they get this idea that Bernie Sanders can't win against Donald Trump or can't win an election. Every single poll shows you that's not true. Every single data point shows you that's not true. He's the most liked candidate. He has the biggest support base. A big support base matters. A big volunteer base, individual donors, all that matters, because that's the energy you need to get out there during a general election to get non-voters out to vote for you. So Bernie Sanders appeals to those non-voters. This is why Bernie is best positioned to win in 2020. But he has to get through the primary first. So he has to be able to get Democratic voters, a lot of them older voters that are, right now supporting Joe Biden or maybe Pete Buttigieg. He needs to be able to get a lot of those voters out to vote for him in the primary. Or hope that there are enough young people, enough new voters out in the primary to vote where you don't actually need those voters at all. But it remains to be seen. So historically, you do need at least a chunk of those older voters to vote for you to win the primary. Bernie Sanders is struggling with those people. So an ad like this hopefully will help. But again, electability should also be a major point as well. All right. Next story. Actually, I just heard a super chat. Maybe I heard multiple. Let me look at my chat here. Jen Pepper says, happy Friday. Thanks, Jen. Happy Friday to you. Very generous super chat. Let me scroll down to Boogie O. Winston says, Bernie has taken back second place. Yes, we're going to get to some polling, some recent polling on Bernie Sanders and how strong he's looking. Jack Jamin says, Bernie Tulsi 2020. I'm not with you with the VP, but I'm with you on Bernie. Thanks for the super chat. Annabelle Somoza says, when will you start a Canadian Justice Democrat? It's not that easy. I would love to. That would be awesome. But it's just, the energy isn't really the same in Canada for something like that as is America. Plus the political, our system is different. We have a parliamentary system. It just operates a little differently. I don't know if something like that is really possible here. At least not right now. But that is a good question. I would like that, something like that in the future. But I don't know if it would work. All right. Let's get to the next story. So this next one is a big one. Yeah, this is a big story. Okay. So for all you Brits out there, hope you're watching. This is for you. And in general, though, all of us should be engaged in this election, because if Corbyn wins, if Corbyn's able to form government, or I should say, if Labour's able to form government with Corbyn as leader, we're going to see some changes. It will be a very important victory for, I guess you could say, left-wing politics worldwide, but not even left-wing politics, just an important victory for people overall, globally. All right. So this week, Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn revealed that the Tories have put the NHS on the table in trade talks with the US. So in a run-up to a general election here next month in December, something like this is vitally important for voters to know, to understand that if you have a Tory government, you're likely going to see the NHS at least partially privatized, or you could say maybe Americanized, in certain ways. So let me show you first the clip that Labour put out, and then I'll get into other responses to this that also back it up.
If you watched the first TV debate between me and Boris Johnson, you'll have seen me hold up these censored, blacked out reports. Pages and pages of censored, blacked out reports of secret US and UK talks about breaking open our NHS to US corporations. He told the country there was no circumstances whatsoever in which his government or any Conservative government would put the NHS on the table. What I have here is something I can reveal to you. 451 pages of unredacted documents and information. These uncensored documents leave Boris Johnson's denials in absolute tatters. We've now got evidence that under Boris Johnson, the NHS is on the table and will be up for sale. The Conservatives said this was nonsense. The documents show that we were right. In fact, negotiations have advanced even further than we feared they had. So now we know, direct from the secret reports, that they never wanted you to see. The US is demanding that our NHS is on the table in negotiations for a toxic deal. Mega corporations see Johnson's alliance with Trump as a chance to make billions from the illness and sickness of people in this country. This election is now a fight for the survival of our National Health Service as a public service free for all at the point of need. So for the want of any doubt, let me give this reassurance: Labour will never, ever treat our NHS as a bargaining chip in trade talks with anybody. We will never let Donald Trump get his hands on our NHS, because our NHS is not for sale.
All right. So that's kind of the gist of it, of what happened. Now, if you're watching this, like someone as me, as a video editor, someone who went to school for video editing, I look at that and I think, oh, the ominous music, they're trying to make the scene really, really horrible, really sad. But you look into it and it's true. So even if you want to argue that, oh, Labor's just, hanging on to this as a way to get votes, you can't ignore the actual facts behind it. So let me show you here. The executive editor of politics at HuffPost put out this tweet here saying, a key section of the Jeremy Corbyn document, drug patents will be key consideration going forward. Sounds like confirmation the NHS drugs pricing is on the table. So you can see it right here. Key consideration going forward. So, I mean, do I have to tell you, most of you watching this likely know Americans pay way more for their prescription medicines than people in the UK or Canadians do. Opening drug pricing up to the US, or drugs to the US, obviously would have a negative impact for consumers. So this is what you risk if you don't vote for Labour. Now, I want to show some more here. I'm not done. English celebrity Richard Osman also chimed in with a good point as well. So he put this out saying, I try not to tweet political opinions, but as it's my birthday, allow me just one. The Tories do want to sell off the NHS. Not in one go, just bit by bit until it's unrecognizable. You'll turn up one day and there will be a priority waiting room. They've always been open about it. So this is a good point here because, some people are going to think, oh, you're just, you're talking about these doomsday scenarios. It's not going to happen. They're not going to sell off the NHS. People would never let that happen. Well, it would never happen likely all at once, but it could happen bit by bit by bit. So something like priority waiting rooms or higher drug costs. I mean, this is something that is absolutely possible under a Tory government. And you've seen this kind of behavior from other conservative governments where, ultimately, during an election, all governments all parties are going to pretend that they're going to fight for you. But who has the record of actually fighting for people, and who has the record of privatization, of deregulation, of benefiting, of pushing policy forward that benefits those that are the wealthiest and large corporations? So, it's amazing to me that some of this stuff has to be brought up over and over again, and you don't just look back in history and just see what these various governments have done, what their philosophy has been, because it's kind of all there. But one potential silver lining to all this is that people appear to be waking up, and voter registration is way up. So as Corbyn tweeted out, 4.1 million registered to vote in the last 5 weeks, compared to 2.9 million in the same period in 2017. Thank you to the enormous efforts of people across the country who made this happen. Real change is coming. And if you follow Corbyn at all, or follow other accounts that have brought this up, Boris Johnson not once brought up the fact that you should get out and register to vote. So while Labour and Corbyn and other people on the left were talking about make sure you get out and register, make sure you can vote on election day, not a peep from Boris Johnson. And it's obvious as to why. They want to keep the vote totals low. When voting is low, conservative governments form, or conservative governments win. When people come out to vote, when non-voters come out to vote, and young people come out to vote, the left wing, or in this case Labour, will win. So that's what ultimately matters here. Polling right now shows, a Tories in position to form government, but a lot of that polling, again, is based on traditional voters. If a lot of non-voters come out to vote, a lot of young people come out to vote, those predictions, that polling means nothing. You can completely flip that around, especially when many of these seats, it's like between 7 and 10% between Labor and Tories in many of these seats. So if you can turn out a lot of young voters out to vote, a lot of non-voters out to vote, you can easily flip many of those seats and be in the position where you have Labor forming government after the general election. So again, it's all about turnout. Be aware of what the Tories are planning to do with the NHS and educate people around you and get people out to vote on voting day. All right. I got more UK stuff coming later, so that ain't the only one. I have actually a pretty hilarious clip coming in a bit, but let's get to something else first. All right, this one. I'm just looking over my notes here. A lot of notes for this. I maybe should have made this video beforehand as like a pre-record, but I'm going to do it for you people. So this one, just to preview it before I get into it, it's going to be AOC schooling Pete Buttigieg. Now, it's a schooling on Twitter. I would love to see her, on video form schooling Pete Buttigieg, but it's a schooling nonetheless. And we'll get to it in a second. I just want to prep all the links here because there is a number of things I am sharing. In the meantime, maybe I can answer super chats while I'm doing this. Where was I? Okay, if I miss your super chat, I'll get to it later. I'm just scrolling here. Maybe hard to miss some stuff. Faze Dave Stanny says, "Hey David, I'm an Iranian American citizen who's moving back to Iran soon. Have you heard of what's going on there lately about the gas prices?" I heard something about gas prices going up, but I haven't been paying close attention to it. But I heard something because I think I was watching or listening to a podcast that briefly mentioned it, so I don't have it in the forefront of my mind. But you know what? I'll look into that. Jaguar Rose says, "Hey David, just made a donation to Bernie. We got to fight for him like he fights for us. What are your thoughts on Nina Turner as Bernie's chief of staff?" I mean, Nina's going to be something in the administration, assuming Bernie wins. I would like her as VP. That's my personal choice. But chief of staff, sure. Nina anywhere in a position of power in that administration is or would be a great thing. Trudy sends in a super chat saying, "I can relate to Biden forgetting names, etc." Yeah, as can I. So when it comes to Biden forgetting names, I am not good on that either. So I wouldn't, That said, as she goes on to say, but I'm a smoker. Okay, well, I'm not a smoker. People my age plus will give them a pass, but as they do it too, and think they're still sharp anyway. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't think I've really criticized Biden over forgetting names. Hopefully that isn't all people take away from when it comes to Biden criticisms, is that he fumbles over his words and he forgets names. And no, it's just look at his history. Biden has not fought for people. Biden is a guy who can't even defend his positions. I mean, over the past week, or maybe it was 2 weeks ago, but people have now questioned him on his positions, on various positions, and on immigration and on Medicare for All especially. So when he was questioned on immigration, he told that person, it was an immigrants' rights activist, he told that person, vote for Trump. And then when somebody was questioning him on Medicare for All, he told that person to go vote for Bernie or Elizabeth Warren. So if he's not even willing to try and defend his positions, is this somebody that you really think can go up against Donald Trump? I mean, Biden is a worse version of Hillary Clinton. And Hillary Clinton lost in 2016. So if you have somebody who is not even able to really defend himself, but has the same positions as Hillary Clinton does, I don't like. Biden is not a guy that's going to excite anybody out to vote on election day. Non-voters are not going to come out to vote for him. Young people are not going to go out canvassing for him. Biden has a very good shot of losing. So just because he has high name recognition, that doesn't mean anything for election day. And as you're going to see when I'm going to show you in a bit, Bernie's polling continues to increase while Biden's dropping. Sierra Boss says, is this a new one? That's an old one. Sierra Boss says, mainstream media is saying Warren is tanking because she embraced Medicare for all, but it's nonsense. She tanked because she ran away from Medicare for all. Yeah, fair point. Yeah, I would not agree with mainstream media on that. That doesn't make any sense. Elizabeth Warren has embraced Medicare for all for a while now. She just tanked recently. And she tanked recently. I'm not even sure if it's because of that or if it's because people just got tired of the flavor of the month and now media has really, coalesced around Pete Buttigieg. So that could kind of be the reasoning there. Warren's support, when she was growing, it was never solid. It was always people who were those, I guess, a little more moderate, or I should say wealthier voters in the Democratic base that kind of go between Biden, Buttigieg, and Warren and Kamala Harris. I mean, they've been all over the place. So they were with Warren for a bit. Now they're kind of with Buttigieg and Biden again. So whereas Bernie has a solid support base that has never wavered. Now his top has gone up and down. Like he's gotten some of those people. He's gotten older generation voters out to support him. So that support for Bernie kind of fluctuates a bit, but in terms of Bernie's actual base of support, it's never wavered. Okay, sorry, I'll get some more super chats later. As I was prepping this story, and yeah, I just can't multitask. I wish I could, but I can't. In case you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm just prepping links that I'm going to be referring to during this next story. And there's more than I thought there was. All right. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez schooled Pete Buttigieg on what rights are. Now, if you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about, let me first show you this ad here where Pete Buttigieg takes an indirect shot at Bernie Sanders' free college and canceling student debt plans.
I believe we should move to make college affordable for everybody. There are some voices saying, well, that doesn't count unless you go even further, unless it's free even for the kids of millionaires. But I only want to make promises that we can keep. Look, what I'm proposing is plenty bold. I mean, these are big ideas. We can gather the majority to drive those big ideas through without turning off half the country before we even get into office. And that, I think, is the best governing strategy, as well as what it's going to take in order to win. And Lord knows we got to win. I'm Pete Buttigieg, and I approve this message.
Okay. Pete Buttigieg using this argument that Hillary Clinton used in 2016. Oh, I don't want to give college to the kids of Donald Trump. I don't want to give college to the kids of wealthy people. Completely ridiculous. So let me show you, before I get into my points on this, let me show you AOC just completely schooling Pete Buttigieg on this complete disingenuous crap. And look, I say schooling, but really, Pete knows this. He's just lying to people. So really what she's doing here is exposing how much of a liar Pete Buttigieg is. So as AOC says here, this is a GOP talking point. Used to dismantle public systems, and it's sad to see a Dem candidate adopt it. Let's talk about why Republicans are wrong on this. Just like rich kids can attend public school, they should be able to attend tuition-free public college. Here's why. Universal public systems are designed to benefit everybody. Everyone contributes and everyone enjoys. We don't ban the rich from public schools, firefighters, or libraries because they are public goods. Universal systems that benefit everyone are stronger because everyone is invested. 3. When you start carving people out and adding asterisks to what can benefit from goods that should be available to all, cracks in the system develop. 4. Many children of the elite want to go to private Ivy League schools anyway, which aren't covered by tuition-free public college. 5. Lastly, and I can't believe we have to remind people of this, but it's good to have classrooms from pre-K through college to be socioeconomically integrated. Having students from different incomes and backgrounds in the same classroom is good for society and economic mobility. I really have nothing to add to this. I mean, this completely breaks down how empty the Pete Buttigieg argument is, or I should say the Republican talking point argument is against free college and canceling student debt. It by far benefits the vast majority of people over a few rich people. And even if it benefits rich people, who cares? As she says here, rich people use roads, they use firefighters. And mostly, I mean, rich kids go to Ivy League schools anyway. Like, it doesn't, this whole argument is meant to distract. Because on the face of it, I mean, for the average person, I think that's a good, the argument that Pete Buttigieg is using is one that I think works. Because if you don't question it, if you don't know how to question it, you think, yeah, why should my taxes go to helping rich people's kids? But you just take a second and think about how absurd that is, and think about what our taxes are used for, what they should be used for, and look into how AOC breaks it down here. It's obvious that that universal college and canceling student debt would be a huge benefit, and universal programs stand the test of time. I mean, you see something like Social Security, where when Republicans and Democrats were trying to cut it under Obama, there was a huge uproar, and they never actually did, because it would be a huge, it would have hurt both parties. So what you normally have here are, even when elites are trying to cut universal programs, the public fights back because they want that universal program, because they all enjoy it. And they understand that will be the same thing under a Medicare for All system. Under a Medicare for All system, since it would be universal, since everybody would be on it, it would be impossible, almost impossible to try and claw it back once you actually have Medicare for All. I mean, we see this in Canada, and we see this in the UK. I mean, you see an uproar right now. The NHS has been around forever. And yes, the Tories have tried to attack it again and again and again. But ultimately, the system still exists, and same with Canada. Our universal system, our universal healthcare system still exists because it is incredibly popular. If any conservative government in Canada tried to run against our universal healthcare system and tried to run in a system of bringing in private insurance companies to replace it, they would be laughed out of the room. I mean, there is no voter that would vote for that party because of how popular a universal healthcare system is. And Americans know that. The Americans in power that support the current private system, they know that. So they're afraid of something like Medicare for All or something like universal college or canceling student debt, because they know how popular these policies actually would be. I want to share some other reaction to this. Actually, I already clicked this link, but here we go. So this is Dr. Sarah Goderick-Rabb. She says, "Dear Pete Buttigieg, it is clear you haven't spent much time in public higher education, where just 1% of students are the children of millionaires. Almost all of those attend out of state. Please don't propose policy without a clue." And here's a funny reaction that I think sums it up well. Ken Klippenstein tweeted out, "Billionaire rubbing hands together. Everything is going according to plan. Once these fools make college free, I'll be able to send my kids to Kansas State University without paying a dime." Just showing you how absurd the idea is that, oh, you're paying for the kids of billionaires. The idea that wealthy kids go into debt because of school, or that or most of them even attend public colleges, completely ridiculous. Something just to back up maybe why Pete Buttigieg has such horrible policy. Pete Buttigieg hired, so this is from the summer, but Pete Buttigieg has hired former Goldman Sachs executive as his national policy director. So this was over the summer, July 18th. That's who Pete Buttigieg has running his policy. Goldman Sachs executive. All the writing's on the wall. This is who Pete Buttigieg is. So, I mean, right now his national support is around like 7%, but he has, there is some polling out showing he has strong support in Iowa and New Hampshire, the two early states. A lot of that is because he has a lot of commercials on the air. So naturally that's going to raise your profile, have more people support you because they see more of you. But when those people begin to see some actual arguments made against him, and hopefully on a freaking debate stage, not just people on YouTube, like this kind of thing, it needs to be brought up on a debate stage by the other candidates. We know the mainstream press is not going to bring this up. We know the mainstream press is not going to talk about how Buttigieg has the most billionaire donors, how he has an NBC executive behind him, maybe why Morning Joe gives him such a favorable coverage, why the wealthiest people, corporate America, are behind Pete Buttigieg. We know the mainstream press are not going to make these points. People on stage in a debate, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, if Buttigieg continues to rise, they have to bring this stuff up. They have to bring all of this up, not even to mention how his history with black supporters in his hometown. So all of this needs to be brought up. There were so many skeletons in Pete Buttigieg's closet that are never discussed in the mainstream press, which has allowed him to grow his support nationally, or at least grow his support in early states, because he's not actually being attacked on anything. All right. I cannot stand Pete Buttigieg. I gotta say, he triggers me. Like, just by how disingenuous the man is, he truly triggers me. All right. Let me get some super chats. Let me do that. But I'm gonna bring up the super chat page because the chat's going way too quick. Can't follow what's going on. All right. Let me get off this. Okay, some super chats that I missed earlier. Again, I'll take most of these, likely at the end, but I'll take what I can now. So I think I missed this earlier. Seth O says, I want to see a Bernie Nina ticket. Thoughts? I agree. That's what I would like to see. Bernie Sanders, Nina Turner. That's what I would like to see. Yeah, that's what I want. Taggy says, how can we from Europe we from Europe support Bernie best? By talking about him? I mean, there really is no, I'm not really sure, because you can't donate, obviously, to American campaigns from when you're from another country. If you have American friends and family, you can help. If you have a YouTube show, you can talk about him. But otherwise, I don't really know how the average European can help Bernie Sanders. Gold Storm 07 says, do you think it's likely that Mike Revelle would have input on Bernie's Secretary of Defense / state? I'll be honest, I don't think he needs Mike Revelle. Bernie has solid positions. He may not be as brash on Twitter as Mike Revelle has been, but that doesn't mean that Bernie understands, Bernie understands foreign policy better than anybody in this race, and I think it's not even close. He has an actual different approach, different vision. All right, back to the next story. Deval Patrick. Don't worry, I won't spend much time on this. Who cares about Deval Patrick, which is kind of the whole point of this story that I'm about to do. I don't know why this guy's in the race. Former Massachusetts governor and Bain Capital executive, Deval Patrick, has joined the 2020 race for, I don't know why. I mean, there really is no logical reason. Unless he has joined this race to only hurt Elizabeth Warren potentially in Massachusetts, I really don't see his path to victory. There's no reason for him to be in this race. But I want to share this clip that I saw of him, because it's kind of horrible. I mean, it shows you how empty he is as a candidate, where he has nothing to offer. Look at what he says about himself here as a way to try and sell himself to the American people.
I'm trying to be very careful because I am enormously fond and respectful of Senator Warren, that this campaign is not a critique of her or others. It is simply that my range of a problem-solving experience, my life experience, is broader than most of the other candidates in the race. And I think it is important to bring that to bear, not just as a point of experience, but to make this point, Allison. You know, most people, many people around the country feel unseen and unheard. And they, even in the early states, you know, I was out in Iowa last week, and they also feel very focused on right now.
Okay. Now, I got to be fair. I have not seen the rest of this clip. I'm not sure if it goes anywhere. But here he's saying, well, you know, I'm not running to run against Elizabeth Warren or anybody else. I'm running because of my experience. And my experience is important because people need to feel seen. What? What do you support, dude? Like, this is a Bain Capital executive. Now, look, he was popular apparently when he was governor of Massachusetts, even though, I mean, going over his record, he really didn't do too much. But I guess he didn't screw it up, so he was kind of popular. So he has the potential here maybe to take support away from Elizabeth Warren in the primary in Massachusetts. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know why he's here. So in some ways, you could almost say this could be a gift to Bernie Sanders. I mean, if Bernie is running close to Elizabeth Warren in Massachusetts and, you know, Deval Patrick takes some of Warren's support away and ultimately that helps Bernie, cool, I guess. But, like, are these people that dumb? Like, Bloomberg, who I'm going to get to as well, do they actually think, does Deval Patrick, does Michael Bloomberg, do these people actually think they have a chance? Or is there something else going on here? I just have a hard time believing these people are that dumb. But, I mean, maybe they are. Maybe they are just that stupid. And it really goes to show that, you know, America is not a meritocracy. You have just total idiots at the top of society doing well that really have no idea that they have no chance in this primary or in the race in general. So Deval Patrick is, you know, essentially just completely insignificant in this race. But Bloomberg, as I'm going to get to in a bit, may actually, I don't think he has any support either, but he has at least money that will help him that Deval Patrick doesn't have at least as much of. Told you I wouldn't waste too much time on Deval Patrick.
When you have rational national priorities.
I'm hearing super chats coming. Let me get to another story first. Should we do Bernie closing the gap in early states? Why not? Let's do that one. Bernie Sanders is closing the gap in early states and remains the most favorable candidate running for the Democratic Party nomination. So let me show you some of this Morning Consult data, which I think for some people, if you have not been paying attention, is going to be a little eye-opening for you. So this is who's leading right now. So Biden, of course, still on top with 30%, but you got Bernie there, close, somewhat close second. With 21%, Warren down at 15%, and then the race kind of falls off. Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, Yang, and it goes down. But this is actually what I find the most interesting here. Early primary state voters. So you have Joe Biden now at 26%, Bernie Sanders just 3 points away at 23%. Also keeping in mind, all polling in general often skews towards older generation voters, skews towards traditional voters and not non-voters. A lot of Bernie's support is from the young and from non-voters. So, look, it's hard to quantify that stuff, but keeping that in mind when looking at any of these polls, in general, I think Bernie has stronger numbers than it actually appears in most polls. But with that said, he's close here to Joe Biden with 23%. Now, there's something else I want to share here based on that data point. And that's the difference. So, if I bring this a little over here. So in the early states, since October, Biden has gone down 5 points. Bernie +9. Way more than anybody else here. So Bernie's gone up 9 points over the course of a month. Warren's gone down 1. Steyer, who I'm surprised is even that high, has gone down 1. Buttigieg +2. Yang +4. Harris down 3. Again, showing you where the momentum is. I feel like every week I have a video about Bernie's momentum, but that's because he has momentum. Over the past month, he has been growing in support. More on this. So this is the early state difference since the debate. So before the debate, you had so Biden's gone down in a week, down 3 points in a week. So pre-debate, he was up 3. Post-debate, down 3. Sanders up 5 since the debate. Warren up 1. Steyer up 1. Buttigieg down 2. Yang up 2. Harris down 2. Bloomberg down 1. And Klobuchar not moving. So even though the mainstream press, including in that debate, tried to push Pete Buttigieg out there, Buttigieg lost support since the debate. Klobuchar, who also is getting way too much airtime, has stayed the same at 2%. Whereas, again, Bernie Sanders, I guess, came off the best in that debate as he's the one here who jumped the most in support. But we're not done. Let me scroll down to a bit of this here. So this is just tracking over time. This is so the national polling. So you see Biden here kind of staying the same a lot, but he's going down more recently. Warren is dropping off a lot, and Bernie is going up while Biden's coming down. Now, if you are guessing that, hey, are some of Biden's second choice, or are some of Biden's supporters, is their second choice Bernie Sanders? You would be correct. So looking at second choice, or second choices here, Biden supporters, second choice selections, Bernie Sanders, 28% of them say Bernie Sanders, 22% of them say Warren, 12% of them say Pete Buttigieg. So that means if Biden continues to drop, it's going to help Bernie Sanders the most. Sanders supporters, this is, I guess, no surprise. Their second choice is Elizabeth Warren. It is kind of surprising to me that 27% of them, their second choice is Joe Biden. So that, again, skews to the older voters. This also shows you how these polls skew older, because anybody under 40 looking at that number thinks, no way. Somebody as a Bernie supporter, their second choice is not Joe Biden. But a lot of that support, a lot of this polling skews older generation. So Bernie is getting a lot of that support right now, and he can continue to get a lot of Biden support because he is the second choice for many Biden supporters. And then Andrew Yang, Kamala Harris, oddly tied there at 7% for second choice for Sanders supporters. Warren's second choice, or I should say, people that support Warren, their second choice. Bernie Sanders by far 31%, 11% up on Joe Biden at 20%, and Pete Buttigieg at 17%. So this also shows you as Warren goes down, as both Biden and Warren drop, it helps Bernie Sanders the most. Looking at Buttigieg supporters, this is not surprising to me. Their second choice is Joe Biden, and then Elizabeth Warren, really close behind, then Kamala Harris. Again, showing you that a lot of the support that Warren had recently that made her jump in support, a lot of that support is weak support, meaning it can go between various candidates. So a lot of that support is older voters, is wealthy voters, A lot of them support Buttigieg now, so maybe they supported Warren before. Now they're supporting Buttigieg. So that vote moves around a lot. It was with Kamala Harris at one point, then Warren, then Buttigieg. We'll see if it's going to stay with Buttigieg or go somewhere else. But if it goes somewhere else, it'll go to Joe Biden or potentially Elizabeth Warren again, or again, Kamala Harris. Though I don't see Kamala Harris lasting much longer here. Though it shows you here, Harris supporters. So once Harris goes down, which I feel like it's going to happen soon, a lot of her support will go to Elizabeth Warren, some to Joe Biden, and surprisingly enough, some to Bernie Sanders here. Yes, this piece. I almost forgot. Tracking name recognition and favorability. This kind of speaks for itself. Who is the most favorable candidate? Bernie Sanders. 75% here. Joe Biden down at 68. Elizabeth Warren down at 63. Kamala Harris 53. Bloomberg. I mean, why is Bloomberg in this position in this list? But Bloomberg here at 31%. Cory Booker 48, and then it kind of goes down from there. Deval Patrick. So let's just look. Deval Patrick's favorability is lower than Marianne Williamson. All right, so there you go. Why is Deval Patrick in this race? So again, this is the kind of thing that matters for a general election. You need somebody who is likable. I mean, you saw this in 2016. Bernie had the highest favorables out of anybody in the race, but Hillary won the primary, and you had her go up against Donald Trump, two of the most unliked people ever to go up against each other in a general election, and Hillary lost. Bernie Sanders would be able to consolidate the vote. He'd be able to get out a lot of people, especially a lot of non-voters and young people, to get out and vote for him. And not only just vote for him, but get them out canvassing, get them out phone banking, get them out knocking on doors, get them out donating. I mean, Bernie's support comes from the people, which goes to why his favorability is so high, because he is a man of the people. They know who he is. They've seen his 40-year record of fighting for the same thing, of fighting for the average person. You have that in a candidate go up against a Republican in 2020, it will be a blowout. You just have to get him through the primary. He has to win the primary. Again, many states are closed states. You can't vote unless you're a registered Democrat. That's a huge issue for someone like Bernie Sanders, where a lot of his support comes from independents and non-voters. So that is why ensuring people are registered, ensuring your friends and family are registered. Again, I think it's voteforbernie.org is the website. You go there, it tells you when to register, the deadline dates, all that stuff, and it'll help you get prepared to vote for Bernie in the primary. But we ain't done. Let's look at this. Which candidate do you trust the most when it comes to handling health care? Bernie Sanders, 29%, clearly on top here. Biden, 21, Warren, 19, Buttigieg, 5. So this is a Kaiser Family Foundation poll. And this is a more recent one. I mean, I've done stories on other polls from other people that say the same thing, that show Sanders as the most trusted on healthcare. So it's not just, this isn't just one poll. This is a pattern of behavior when it comes to this polling. Bernie is the most trusted on healthcare, and not even just healthcare. You look up a Daily Beast article that covered this. Bernie Sanders topped the most trustworthy candidate on the economy, on healthcare. Actually, it was on every single policy issue. Bernie Sanders is the most trusted. Yet, you look at the other poll, who's electable? And because a lot of the people polled watch cable news, they think, Bernie's not electable, even though universally this man is loved. Universally, we see him as the one that we trust the most on all these policy issues. But no, not electable, because Morning Joe, Mika Brzezinski, and Joe Scarborough told me Bernie Sanders can't win, even though every single data point shows you the opposite. I'm not done. One more link right here. This kind of sums up everything and what Bernie Sanders is. Which candidate do you think cares the most about people like you? Sanders, 24%. Biden, 19%. Sanders, again, highest here in terms of candidate that cares the most about you. This is not surprising. Again, if you pay attention to this poll or polling on this, this isn't the first poll to say this. Other polls have shown the same thing. This is a more recent one, Quinnipiac. Previous polls have shown the same thing. Bernie Sanders is polled as a candidate that people care, or that people think cares the most about them. And you can kind of see why. Anytime he's on a debate stage, he's a normal dude. He has a 40-year record of fighting for people. He has said the same thing forever. He actually cares about people. He's not doing this to be famous. I mean, most people didn't know who Bernie Sanders was till 2016. That proves to you that Bernie has never looked for the spotlight. His whole purpose in life has been to help people. So you have this candidate now rise up over the last 4 years, grow this movement. He is best positioned to not only win, but to actually transform the entire country with a movement of people behind him. And it's not even close. All right. I heard some super chats. Let me get to that. Wolfpack says it's Senator Nina Turner. Who is? You are? Or you mean the VP? Yeah, I'm with you. If you're saying VP, totally. Gabriel Arcari says, sending some love from Sweden. Thank you for the 100 kroner. Much appreciated. Mikey Kingston says, why are you speaking in tongues? Would you ever do a Jimmy Dore live shoe? Would drive 60 mils forth. What? Would drive 60 MLS forth. Okay. I've been on Jimmy's show. So there you go. The part of your tweet, or the part of your super chat that I was able to decipher there. Yes, I've been on his show. Tom O sends an angel emoji. Thank you, Tom. Jennifer Arbuckle says, I've been canvassing weekly for Bernie with DSA. Awesome. That's what I like to hear. More super chats like that one. People that have been canvassing with Bernie, or not with Bernie Sanders, but with the DSA, or canvassing with or for Bernie in general. That's what you got to do. That's how you get the vote out. Bernie for us, super chat, $10. Thank you. Much appreciated. Says, did you see the Jimmy Fallon and Bernie song? I saw a bit of it. I got to say, maybe I shouldn't say this. Jimmy Fallon, I don't care for him too much. Now, I'm not saying nothing's wrong with Jimmy Fallon. People like him, you like him. I just don't. He comes off as disingenuous to me for whatever reason. And he had Trump on his show, and he like normalized him. He like put his hand through his hair and stuff. It was just, that stuff kind of turned me off. So I'm not a huge Jimmy Fallon person, but I did see a piece of Bernie on his show, and hey, anywhere that Bernie's allowed to be on is great, because that's usually the issue, is that they just, not even that they smear him, it's that he's not even talked about. So whenever he's on a mainstream talk show like that, that's a good thing. All right. What do we got left in the show? There's a few things. Tories caught in another lie live on air. Actually, I'll do that next. AOC's awesome rant. I put a lot of the great stuff at the end of this, at the end of my list here. Maybe not a good idea, but that's what I did. Okay. Let's get to the Tories. Tories lying again. And this video, I will say, is thoroughly enjoyable. Even if you're not, in the UK, you will enjoy this video. And how absurd, this guy is, Matt Hancock. My previous video, where I did a similar coverage like this on an appearance Matt Hancock had. I mean, Matt Hancock is I don't know. I guess he's wheeled out there to say dumb shit, but that's what he does. That's his job, I guess. The Tories were caught in another lie live on air, claiming that or somehow explaining that the new nurses that they promised to have in the NHS if they win are not sure, they're not new nurses, but they're nurses that will stay within the NHS. So if you don't know what I'm saying, you have to watch this clip. It is so crazy. So this is on Good Morning Britain. Susanna Reid again, as I covered in a previous video where Matt Hancock, who's going to be in this clip, was also in that clip that I've covered before. So this is Good Morning Britain. Susanna Reid is the host. She's talking with Conservative MP and Secretary of State for Health and Social Care, Matt Hancock. And watch this incredible exchange.
You have to forgive us for being slightly confused, Matt, because we spoke to Nicky Morgan this week on the programme, who admitted that 50,000 more nurses would include 19,000 who already exist in the NHS, which by anyone's calculation means there are only going to be 31,000 more nurses.
No, 31,000 new nurses, 50,000 more nurses in total, because some nurses do leave the NHS, and I want to reduce the amount of nurses who leave the NHS and go and work elsewhere. I want the NHS to be an even better place to work, and by reducing the number who leave, you increase the number who are there. By definition. So 50,000 more nurses. I understand that Piers got a bit muddled, and it's a shame that he's...
It's not just Piers, that's not fair. It's not just Piers. It's not just Piers. But Matt, if those nurses are already working in the NHS, they're already there, and you're just choosing to make sure that they stay there, how can you describe them as more nurses? They're already there.
You're double counting them.
Yeah, because the commitment is to increase the total number of nurses who are currently working in the NHS from 280,000 to 330,000. That's a 50,000 increase. And of course, increasing, if you run any organisation, to increase the number of people you've got, you want to hold on to more of those you've got already, and you want to get new. And that's
Matt
what we're
Hancock,
going to do. So,
why don't you just go the whole hog and say we currently have 280,000 nurses, we're going to have 280,000 more because we're going to persuade every single one of them to stay?
Well, at the moment, about 27,000 leave each year, and we want to reduce that figure because working in the NHS is an amazing thing to do, but I want to make sure that it's even better working in the NHS.
With all due respect to you in your position, can you not see how the numbers don't make sense to people? If you are hanging on to a member of staff, that person is already counted in the figures. You don't add that person to the figures because you persuade them not to stay. I mean, not to leave.
But if they were to... No, but if they were to leave and then you improve the working conditions so they don't, then you end up with more people at the end. But the point is this.
You keep them, you don't gain them, you keep them.
So, it is amazing. The kind of massaging that the Tories do on numbers to try and make what their plan is better than it actually is. They are going to add a certain number of nurses, but they try to grow that number by saying, well, I mean, certain amount of them aren't going to leave, so they count as the new nurses that we're adding, even though we're not adding them. They're already there, but we're going to make sure they stay there, so they count towards the number of new nurses. Does anybody count anything like that? Like, if I have like 3 avocados at home, do I go out and say, okay, I'm going to go buy 5 avocados when I'm really only going to buy 2 because I have 3 at home? But no, I'm going to go buy 5 avocados because the ones I have at home are still going to be there. So I'm going to get 2 and add them. So I'm going to buy 5. But no, I'm buying 2. They're just going to be 5 in total. It's just like it's purposely meant to confuse people. It's purposely meant to be obtuse. It's purposely meant to hopefully have people not question it like they're doing it here. So, I mean, the British media is supposed to be horrible, and it is in many ways. I know I've seen a lot of the coverage of Jeremy Corbyn. It is ridiculous. But at the same time, they do have moments like this that I really don't see as often in American media. So while there is, you could almost say, larger, down spikes in terms of how horrible the British media gets than maybe the American media, even though American media is horrible, it's sort of a consistent horrible. The British media just like totally makes things out of thin air. But they also have moments like this where there's a high spike of somebody actually doing their job on television and holding people to account. So this is what I like to see. I hope my avocado analogy made sense. I had an avocado today. Those things can get expensive, though, I tell you. But it's better than buying, avocado toast. Am I right? Oh, those millennials and their avocado toast. I just make my own. And it's not too bad. All right, this one, this next story is great. As you're seeing, are we back? The program quit unexpectedly. Let's see if this, I'm watching my stream now to see if it gets me back in here. All right, it looks like I'm back. That's amazing, it works. Okay, the program just quit in the middle of me doing that. All right, don't worry. Everything still appears to be just fine. All right. During a House committee hearing, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, let me start that over again. During a House committee hearing, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez explained why healthcare is not a commodity. So this is an incredible breakdown, and it's amazing she did this effectively in less than a minute, as you're going to see.
This is a commodity. Her daughter's life was not. People's lives are not commodities. When we talk about economics, there's something known as a demand curve with elasticity. And with every other commodity, you can say, how much is this phone worth to you? And you can say $100, $200. You can buy a Nokia phone. You can not have a phone at all. But you cannot ask the question, how much will you pay to be alive? How much will you pay to live? Because the answer is everything. The answer is you will pay $10, you will pay $1,000, you will go into debt, you will do anything to live. And that is what makes the price of medicine different than the price of an iPhone. Thank you very much.
There you go. I couldn't have said it better myself. This is also why Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is so important, because she is able to break down, I guess you could say, otherwise complicated topics into very easy to explain issues for the vast majority of people. Politics can be a complicated game if you get stuck in the weeds. But big picture, if you're able to explain a concept like why healthcare shouldn't be treated the same as an iPhone, then it becomes obvious as to why something like Medicare for all should exist, why universal healthcare should exist. Because you can't treat healthcare the same as you treat any other product. Because healthcare is vital to your life. You will pay anything for healthcare. You won't pay anything for a phone, but your life is your life. So to have that stuck and put into the hands of private companies making money off of denying people coverage, like, how many times do I have to describe how completely absurd the American healthcare system is? It doesn't make any sense. If you grew up in it, you really have, like, your worldview is so limited because you grew up and it's normal to you. Now, obviously, look, if you're watching this show, you know it's ridiculous. You know it's not normal. But for many people, it's just normal. Like the way the system operates, the way society is, that's normal to you because you grew up in that. But what's normal to me is never thinking about healthcare ever, because it's always guaranteed to me. It's always there. When I've needed it, I have it. That's what actually should be normal within American society. It should be normal to never think about healthcare until you need it, and then you get it. So her explaining it, AOC explaining this difference here, I think was very effective. All right, let's go to Bloomberg. Bloomberg, I hope to never do another video on this guy again. Actually, let me take some super chats first to kind of break up the mood here. Gabriel Arcari sends another super chat saying, okay, one more time. Hashtag Bernie 2020. Hashtag Shahid versus Pelosi. Hashtag Paula Jean Swearingen versus Joe Manchin. Yep. I'm with you. Sam O sends a super chat saying, David, are you going to watch The Irishman on Netflix? I don't know. Should I? Is it good? I might check it out. I did see it when I was browsing Netflix last night. I saw it there, but I ended up watching a documentary. But I got to say, I think I said this last week too. I'm finding it hard to watch like scripted television. I don't know what it is. I don't know, because politics is so at the forefront of my mind that I feel like if I'm not absorbing something that I can actually use, that I feel like I'm wasting my time. I think that's ultimately what it is. But when I am able to kind of force myself down and watch something that is scripted television or a movie, it mentally benefits me, I think, because you need a break from this stuff. I mean, if all you're doing is consuming like just mostly negativity from the news, it kind of puts you in a mindset that I don't think is beneficial, even like not even beneficial in my ability to cover these things, because I'm not able to maybe think creatively or think differently, because I'm sort of just stuck in the zone of always looking at what's happening in the world. Andrew Smith says, which progressive insurgent are you most excited for? Any reason why? You mean like small races? Do you mean current politicians? That's kind of a broad question. I mean, the name that came to mind immediately was Cenk Uygur. If Cenk wins his seat in California's 25th district, there will be a massive shakeup. He will make noise because he has a successful career. He runs the Young Turks. He doesn't really need to be a congressperson, so he has nothing to lose. If he wins, he's going to fight for people to the death. I mean, he will say whatever the hell's on his mind. He will go after Nancy Pelosi. He doesn't care that she's House Speaker. He will publicly go after her. He will publicly talk about how these Democrats are taking bribes. I mean, it will be scorched earth. And you need someone like that to be able to remind the American people of what is actually going on. And the mainstream press wouldn't be able to ignore it. You can't ignore someone like Cenk Uygur if he actually has the seat. You saw him on recently on CNN. I covered it yesterday. He was on with Chris Cuomo. Gave a fantastic interview. Chris Cuomo, to his credit, asked tough questions. I mean, the toughest questions you could possibly ask of Cenk Uygur based on, his history, the name of the show. He went deep. Cuomo did, but Cenk had fantastic responses, and it's because the facts are. The facts are on Cenk's side. There is nothing really to criticize Cenk over, because when you actually look at what they're criticizing him over, it's all just empty stuff, like about blog posts from 15 years ago. I mean, who cares? People change, evolve. He was a Republican when not even 15 years ago. He deleted them 15 years ago. They're from earlier. So blog posts that he disavowed a while ago that were brought up by the right wing 2 years ago. Now Democrats are using them against him. There is nothing to go after Cenk Uygur on. He is not taking any corporate money. He's funded by the people. He is a man of the people. If you have him in Congress forget about it. It would be, there'd be videos every week that I would have to do in Janky, because I'm sure he would say something or do something worth covering. J-Mac sends a $10 super chat, generous, thank you, saying Mayor Pete disingenuous smears on single-payer healthcare and universal college is very disheartening for such a young person. I can't wait for his campaign to burn up in flames. You're my Canadian. You're my Canadian king. Thank you. Thanks, J-Mac. Yeah, I agree with you completely on Pete. Very disingenuous. And the fact that he's been able to package it as a young person as to, like, this is... Somebody on Twitter wrote this, and I hate that I don't know who it is, but they made this perfect comparison, whereas they said something to the effect of Pete Buttigieg is who boomers wish millennials were, and Bernie Sanders is who millennials wish boomers were. So you have somebody in Bernie Sanders where this is an actual man of the people. This is what people want from all boomers. Or, I mean, Bernie's older than a boomer, I believe. But this is what people want from their politicians, from people that actually that should represent them in positions in government. Whereas Pete Buttigieg is sort of like the squeaky clean, young kid that boomers would love their own kids to be. Like, it's just, and he's not squeaky clean, by the way, but that's what Pete Buttigieg gives off, and boomers eat it up. I mean, you see from his support, like, it's hilarious. Older generation voters, again, I'm generalizing here, obviously, but a lot of older generation voters that support Pete Buttigieg support him because they think, oh, we need a young person to lead. But if the young people aren't with Pete Buttigieg, which they're not, then doesn't your whole argument kind of fall apart? Why do you need a young person to lead if the young people aren't even with that person? It's crazy. I mean, there is so much misinformation out there, and people don't inform themselves, and people have lives. I get it. They have jobs. They can't inform themselves. Really, it falls onto the media. The media is so bad. The mainstream press is so bad because they have a particular bias, which is a bias towards corporate America, obviously, because they're corporations. Susan Eldridge says, we need Bernie volunteers for texting, phone banking, and knocking and door knocking. Help us help Bernie win. Hashtag not me, us. Yeah, so that's a message to all you people watching. Volunteers for texting, phone banking, and knocking on doors. Really, if you have the time, definitely get involved. Bernie needs the help now in the primary. Jack Jammin says, have to look at the bigger picture when it comes to those who can afford college getting it for free. Because another big issue Bernie talks about is the rich paying their fair share and a Wall Street speculation tax. Yeah. So, yeah, Bernie's plan for free college is to... Free college or canceling student debt. I forget which one it is. But basically, either one, maybe both, tax Wall Street speculation. So there is... again, you don't need taxes to pay for this stuff if you know how the government actually works. But when it comes to informing people and I guess communicating how you're going to do these things in the way that media right now discusses politics, you have to talk about how you're going to pay for it in that way. So yeah, taxing Wall Street speculation. Okay. But yeah, government spending, you don't need... governments don't work like businesses. A lot of people like to pretend they do. They don't. You can invest into public services without having to have the taxes immediately right there to pay for them. All right, I'll get to more later. There is, believe it or not, some more stories. I just forget what it is because there is a lot. Actually, I think what I have... No, this Bloomberg story is big. So I got a Bloomberg story coming up. I have how the DCCC attempted to challenge a progressive candidate and got exposed. I have how Indiana absolved Amazon of a death to get headquarters 2, or HQ 2, I should say. And Anand Giadartis embarrassing plutocrat defender Brett Stevens. I also got that. All right. Let's start with Bloomberg. What a fun dude. What a fun guy, that Michael Bloomberg. Oh, what a character he is. My God. I almost didn't do this story because I really hate him. I really don't care about Michael Bloomberg. But that's why I guess I should cover this. Sorry, just a little prep here. Actually, I'm just about done now. That's good. Okay. Billionaire Michael Bloomberg, who is running for the Democratic nomination, endorsed George W. Bush in 2004. Now, if you didn't know that, I got a short clip to share, and I'm also going to share some other endorsements or where he's thrown money recently, and it's not good. So let's start with the part of this George W. Bush endorsement. This was at the RNC in 2004. Here we go.
The president deserves our support. We are here to support him. And I am here to support him.
This guy is running for the Democratic nomination. Not only is he a billionaire, not only does he have a spotty record as mayor of New York, he also endorsed George W. Bush in 2004. But wait, there's more. Let me get to some other endorsements that he made. And I'm reading from a Politico article here, so I kind of broke it down in my own words. But if you want to see the full Politico article, it is that one here. The hubris is unbelievable. Dems seethe over Bloomberg GOP donations. So let me read a little summary that I wrote down of what Bloomberg has done. So he showered, this is in Politico's words, showered New York Republicans with money when he was mayor. He endorsed former Republican Senator Scott Brown over Elizabeth Warren in 2012. Bloomberg spent in 2016 $10 million to successfully help re-elect Republican Pat Toomey in his race against Democrat Katie McGinty. Last year, Michael Bloomberg donated to Representative Dan Donovan, a Staten Island Republican. And he also, last year, held a fundraiser for Republican Congressman Peter King. Now, I just want to share this little piece here from Chris Hayes. So Michelle Goldberg was on Chris Hayes. I don't always agree with her, but I think she's fairly solid. I enjoy her analysis. Let's watch what Michelle Goldberg says here.
There's actually no, there are certain parts of Michael Bloomberg's agenda, around climate change, around guns, that I suppose have some reach, although he's not necessarily better on those issues than any of the other candidates who are running.
That's the other thing, right? Like, what makes those interesting is those against the rest of his ideological profile.
Right.
But they're not specifically dynamic or interesting against other people.
Let's say you want a billionaire who's done a bunch on climate change. You've already got Tom Steyer in the race. Yeah. And so, again, I think his entry is interesting in that it's a sign of elite panic about the field, which is itself concerning.
Yeah.
But it is, again, it's almost hallucinatory, and it's especially hallucinatory from people who discount Bernie Sanders' chances. Bernie Sanders is far more electable in the United States of America than Michael Bloomberg.
Michelle.
There's actually...
There you go. I completely agree. Bernie Sanders is far more electable in the United States of America than Michael Bloomberg is. Now, why is Bloomberg getting into the race and so late? It's very unlikely. Zero chance he's winning the Democratic nomination, but there is a chance that he may try and run as a third-party candidate in the fall. So, or maybe he's just this dumb. Maybe Michael Bloomberg is just this dumb and thinks he has a chance. It's really hard to say, but if he is somewhat, I guess, smart, but smart in the sense that he is very aware of his greed, or very aware of his money, and doesn't want someone like Bernie Sanders bringing in a wealth tax or whatever, then he may try and run as a spoiler candidate against Bernie and Trump in 2020. Again, impossible to know, but he has no shot in this primary. So it's really odd. I mean, especially this late. Like, if you were going to at least try to attempt to actually win the Democratic nomination as somebody who is a billionaire with a horrible record, I mean, at least get in early and start pouring money into all the states. So what he's doing right now, I think Michael Bloomberg is spending something like $30 million, I think, on ads in California, which is just crazy. So he is really trying to buy this nomination. But if he loses the nomination, which he inevitably will, is he going to stick around? I don't see Michael Bloomberg endorsing Bernie Sanders at any point during this race. He may just stay out of it, but I have a hard time thinking that he's just going to sit back and let Bernie and Trump fight it out. He'll either back someone else's third-party run, or he'll try and make his own. And in that process, though, if you think about it, I don't really know if that hurts Bernie Sanders, because what you may end up having is a lot of the, I guess, so-called moderate, or let's say wealthy Republicans may not vote for Trump and vote for Bloomberg instead. And I guess some wealthy Democrats won't vote for Bernie and vote for Bloomberg instead. But we're talking about like 5% of people. Is that really going to have a huge negative impact on Bernie Sanders? Or will it actually hurt Donald Trump more? So again, a lot of speculation here. It's impossible to know what Bloomberg's thought process actually is. But under no scenario is Bloomberg going to become the next president. That's not happening. So all of this is done as a vanity project. This is all because he loves himself, loves his money, is incredibly greedy, and doesn't like the fact that he has that you see Bernie Sanders surging right now, and that progressive policy and ideas like Medicare for all, canceling student debt, free college, the Green New Deal are incredibly popular. All right. So the next three stories are going to likely be kind of quick. One of them I may not even do. But these. So over the week, what I normally do, I have like, I'll see a story in the news and I'm like, I got to cover this. So I'll write it down in my notes, but I won't get to it by the end of the week, and I'll throw it into this live stream. So a lot of the stories you've seen so far have been, pieces of that. But these last three, I really didn't do much exploring apart from kind of just the tweet or the headline. So I'm going to share those because I still think they're important stories. I just can't go deep on them because I wasn't able to prepare that much. But let me share some of this, because I do think these stories are still are not going to get kind of the attention that they deserve, because they're not huge stories, but they're still worth talking about. So the DCCC is attempting to challenge a progressive candidate in Texas. But in the process of doing that, they exposed themselves. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So Ryan Grimm tweeted out this story here, saying, the DCCC tries to recruit candidates to challenge Julie Oliver of Texas, candidate takes to Facebook to flame DCCC and party generally for meddling in primaries. So this is who, as you're going to see, this is who the DCCC contacted to try and oust, or challenge, I should say, Julie Oliver in Texas, this progressive candidate who supports Medicare for all. So Julie Oliver supports Medicare for all. Steve Kling knows her, but the DCCC didn't know that, so they tried to get Steve Kling to challenge Julie Oliver. Look what he says here. Running for office is a real eye-opener. I got a front row seat to watch well-funded Democrat incumbents sit on their asses and refuse to help Dem challengers, sealing their fate and ensuring the re-elections of Dan Patrick, Sid Miller, Ken Paxton, and yes, Donna Campbell, amongst others. I left the experience feeling I was naive, believing that our common views on social issues and in the Trump era, basic morality bound us together. The truth is that commercial interests all too often bind incumbent Republicans and Democrats much closer than party affiliations. Last week, I got a call from the DCCC trying to get me to run in CD 25, District 25, against my dear friend Julie Oliver. They didn't do their homework on me, I guess. Instead of letting voters decide their primaries, they meddle. They try to put people... They try to put in people they can't control, spending money they could use to help those candidates in the general, and forcing Dems to spend precious resources in contested primaries and runoffs, instead of in already difficult elections against an ever increasingly amoral GOP. So for me, reading stuff like this is a punch in the gut. I see how the DNC is setting up to pull defeat from the jaws of victory once again. Please just let people make their choices without putting thumbs on the scales. Help by amplifying policy messages so people make as well-informed choices as possible. Subverting the popular will is supposed to be the GOP game. Stop playing it lest you become indistinguishable. So, Julie Oliver ran last time in that district, and again, she ran as a progressive candidate. The DCCC doesn't like that, doesn't like her. So even though she is sort of a staple in this race, that she is the one that should be going up against the Republican in the race, they're trying to oust her before she even gets to that point by trying to back a candidate that they can control in terms of control on policy, so be pro-corporate. Her friend here, Steve Kling, is, again, her friend. The DCCC didn't know that. I mean, this is the kind of dirty stuff that happens behind the scenes, where the Democratic Party is trying to control the narrative, control the candidates, control the party. This is the kind of dirty crap they do behind the scenes. Now, again, you could say, oh, this is just politics. That's how politics works. Sure, it is. But the DCCC has corporate cash behind them. They have more resources behind them to be able to do that. So when you have candidates that are progressive candidates that are uncorrupted, not taking corporate money, it's a lot tougher for those candidates to break through. So, like, when you hear, like, you'll hear on the media now, I'm hearing this more often recently, where, oh, the Democratic Party in 2018, they were able to win based on a moderate message. First of all, that's not really true. If you look race by race by race, it's sort of a split between who won these races, progressive candidates or moderate candidates. But in the case of moderate candidates, that's where all the money is. All the money is behind them. All the corporate money is behind them. So if you have all the corporate money behind corporate candidates in these Democratic primaries, obviously those are going to be the candidates that have the most support behind them, that are able to end up winning the primary and end up winning the race in an election year where a lot of people hate Trump, so they go out to vote. So if instead all the money was behind progressive candidates, which, I mean, inherently it can't be because of the message, but if the money was behind the progressive candidates, it would have been them winning all the races. And then you have high-profile Senate losses from Democrats. I mean, Claire McCaskill, who is like the ultimate moderate candidate, she lost her race. Yet anybody claiming that Democrats won on a moderate message in 2018 love to ignore all the massive losses they had in 2018 from moderate candidates. It's incredible. Two more stories. I swear my skin and my lips are so dry right now. I think it's the winter. Whenever the winter comes around, I just like shrivel up like a raisin. All right, this one I didn't do. Honestly, I mean, I read the article, but there's a lot to it. Actually, I think it's a Twitter thread, so maybe I'll just read through the Twitter thread. So there is a news story out that the state of Indiana absolved Amazon of a death because they wanted to get headquarters too. So I'm going to read through this thread here, and I'll give you the rundown on what happened. New report finds that Indiana officials quietly absolved Amazon of responsibility for a warehouse worker's death in order to aid state's bid for HQ2. They deleted every fine levied and accepted the company's argument that the worker was to blame. Let me open this up a little bit here. Quote, during the call, Indiana's OSHA director told Amazon officials what she'd need from them in order to shift the blame from the company to employee misconduct. She told the inspector on the case, I hope you don't take it personally if we have to manipulate your citations. Quote, some days after the call with Amazon, the inspector said Indiana's labor commissioner pulled him into his office. The governor told him how much it would mean to Indiana if the state won the Amazon headquarters. Then the commissioner told him to back off on the Amazon case or resign. The same day, the inspector sent his whistleblower email. Amazon's corporate offices in Seattle gave a $1,000 campaign contribution to Indiana's governor. It was years before Holcomb would next face re-election, and Amazon hasn't donated to him before or since. Probably also worth noting that Philip Lee Terry, the worker who was crushed by a falling forklift, lay in a pool of blood for 2 hours before anyone found him. There you go. What stage of capitalism is this? Fucking disgusting. I don't care if it got demonetized for that shit. Fucking disgusting. All right, one more clip here. Not on this, but on actually, I'm going to kind of skim through this a little bit because it's 13 minutes long. I ain't going to sit here for 13 minutes watching Morning Joe. But what I will do is get to the important piece of this exchange here. So, Anand Giadartis was on Morning Joe, where he essentially called out plutocrat defending Brett Stevens. Watch this exchange. This is over Michael Bloomberg running for the Democratic nomination, and Brett Stevens, of course, defending Michael Bloomberg, while Anand Giadartis is going after exactly why Bloomberg is a problem.
There's a live picture of Chicago for some reason, but I like it.
Again, I'll be
Get in the Christmas spirit already on Thanksgiving week. Joining a young guest with you that we're very excited about.
I did.
Anand Sun is here. Let's talk about Mayor Bloomberg. You have some strong feelings about another, and you're not alone, by the way, about another billionaire entering this race. He's already poured $31 million in advertising of his own money. There's no end in sight in terms of what he can put into the race. Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders saying, as you might imagine, this is another guy trying to buy his way to the White House.
I mean, let's just start with a kind of like what are the chances thing. So 1 out of 500,000 Americans is a billionaire, right? That's how distributed billionaires are in the general population. 1 out of 9 Democrats running for president is now a billionaire, right? You're 55,000 times kind of likelier.
With Tom Steyer.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you got a centimillionaire in John Delaney, who's still in the race. And I think it raises the question of, in a time when more and more Americans, including some on the right, are fed up of the consequences of manic hypercapitalism destroying the American dream, threatening the planet, destroying opportunity structures in their towns and communities around this country, people not being paid properly, people not having the kinds of public services they need to live a decent life. The idea that a plutocrat is the solution to the problems of 30 or 40 years of plutocracy is sort of laughable. And I think people are waking up to the idea that it doesn't matter if it's a good one or a bad one, that actually it's possible to start imagining a future in which the people making big decisions for America don't have to be rich saviors, don't have to be a Donald Trump or a Mike Bloomberg. And I understand there's an enormous character difference between them. But it's actually possible in a democracy to start thinking about leaders of real popular movements, not people who buy elections, as the people who might save us from this moment.
But wait, I'm sorry if I can interrupt. One of our richest presidents was Franklin Roosevelt. I mean, John F. Kennedy came from a very,
yes.
a very
and
well,
we should talk about that.
Very wealthy
one of the
family.
things that those folks did that is very different
from a lot of the billionaires who run today and in public life today in general. FDR was a traitor to his class, famously, right? FDR created public policies that were very good for average Americans and not great for rich people. And what's so remarkable today is that you have so few people at the very top who are able to muster the same courage to do the same. If Michael Bloomberg had, for not just right now, but in his mayoralty and ever since, advocated for a set of public policies that would truly change the power equations in America, truly redistribute power and wealth downward away from the capture of the 1%, I would be sitting at this table saying, look, doesn't matter what his background is, he has done the work to show that his views and his labor overwhelms background. But all of these people that you see in public life, at the very top, whether it's in philanthropy and whether it's now running for president, tend to rep their own interests and run as plutocrats protecting plutocracy. Michael Bloomberg has come out against wealth taxes. He's saying, it's going to make America like Venezuela. This is the kind of, plutes are going to plute, the way I always say. And what you have here is people who are actually ignoring the lesson of FDR that you raised, ignoring the way in which a rich person could, if they're thoughtful, transcend their own interests. And they're just running to, frankly, protect their own class.
Can I just say, with all due respect, what I'm listening to is why the Democrats run the risk of losing in 2020.
Okay, let me just, before I go on to more of his argument, I guess, because there is no argument. I mean, you see how he brings up FDR, and then he can't defend the fact that FDR was a traitor to his class. And then he moves on, well, because you said plutes are going to plute, well, the Democrats are going to lose because of that. Lose what? The plutocrat vote? Okay, lose the plutocrat vote. Who gives a fuck? I mean, this. Look at this dipshit right here. Let's listen to the rest of his argument and see if he actually has an argument. Great. Just fucking, I gotta find it. All right.
In fact, what I'm listening to is why the Democrats run the risk of losing in 2020. There's a world of difference between someone like Mike Bloomberg, who came from modest circumstances, made his money honestly, and has given away a tremendous amount, not just financially, but also in terms of his own public service, and someone like Donald Trump, who inherited tens or hundreds of millions of dollars from his father. This is America. This is a land that believes in free enterprise. It's a land that believes that if you have a great idea, you can make it and you will be magnificently rewarded, and also expects that when you make it to the top of the income ladder, you give a tremendous amount back. Mike Bloomberg has given back $6 billion. That's more than Donald Trump has probably ever had, or even come close to having in his lifetime. And it's not, look, I mean, this whole line, like, plutes are going to plute, like, that's just the same sort of categorization of people, I think, that Donald Trump engages in. There's a world of difference between not only a Bloomberg and a Trump, but also, among these people, like what their ideas are. Don't you want a Democrat who represents like middle-class interests, which rather than just like soak the rich, they're all bad, they're against us, and have a
those are middle-class interests,
dipshit. Class warfare in the Democratic Party?
A couple things. First of all, you don't need to tell me this is America. I'm from America, so I understand. And there's different values at stake in America, and we can all claim different values. The values I'm talking about are also American. Second of all, when you have someone like Mike Bloomberg, I agree with you that he's very different from Donald Trump. I agree with you there's a difference between starting your own business and inheriting money. But the argument that I have made in this book, and that I'm happy to send you a copy because you sound you sound pre, not post, is that even if you have given a bunch away, you have benefited from a system over the last 30, 40 years in this country. If you look at the data on the capture of the 1%, the 0.1%, it's simply too much. If you look at the 0.1%, holding now more wealth than the bottom 80% of Americans, the 1% getting 49% of new income. The data you know and that you and I both know, that the issue is, unless you are showing as a very wealthy person that you are breaking down that system, you are, in a sense, complicit in that system. And Michael Bloomberg has shown zero appetite, I'll let you finish, to fundamentally alter that system. And so to say that's America, my America is not an America in which most people who work 40 hours a week at the bottom half of the country do not anymore feel like they can move ahead, get education, get health care. That's not my America. My America is not a country in which, you know, the 400 wealthiest families pay a lower effective tax rate than any other social class in this country. So we can talk about what America is, but the way America is actually working for a lot of people who never get to be at this table right now is that it doesn't actually work anymore. The American dream is a phrase, and the idea that the savior from plutocracy is a plutocrat is not class warfare. It's not the same as Donald Trump, and it is actually simply trying to suggest that maybe we can actually trust people who come out of popular movements, people who actually grow out of communities to govern this country for the next few decades.
There you go. I can't really add much to that. I mean, every time Anand Giridharadas, not Giridharadas, every time Anand Giridharadas is on MSNBC, I'm amazed he's allowed back on. He's maybe the only regular guest on Morning Joe that has this opinion, that is allowed to say this. I don't see other Morning Joe guests ever like this. Now, look, Chris Hayes or other MSNBC shows occasionally will have on, you know, a Justice Democrat or two, or people that have this kind of worldview. But very rarely does Morning Joe have on a diversity of economic views on the show. Anand Giridharadas is one of the only people actually allowed on the show. And he happens to be on a day, by the way, when Mika and Joe are not there. So I'm not sure what that says. Maybe they don't like him. But here he is calling out the BS. And you cannot argue with what he is saying. I mean, you saw Bret Stephens every single time he tried to make an argument, or when Bret Stephens made an argument, Anand just shot it down. You saw Bret Stephens not be able to come back from the fact that FDR was what's it called? Now I forget the word. Was a class traitor. So the fact that there is no argument against this, that, wow, even if you, lose the plutocrat vote, that saying plutes are going to plute are somehow going to lose the election. I mean, it really goes to show the worldview that Bret Stephens has. His world is, well, half of Americans are plutocrats. You're going to lose that half of America if you say plutes are going to plute. You're going to lose that half of plutocrats, those half of voters in America that are plutocrats. You're going to lose those people in a general election if you talk about, you know, class warfare or talk about how the rich need to pay more taxes. You're somehow going to lose half of American voters that are what? Plutocrats? You're talking about like 0.01% of people here. A wealth tax disproportionately impacts people that are the top 0.1 or 0.01%. So this is not a voting block you have to worry about. What you have to get around is the electability BS. So there's a lot on mainstream press, especially MSNBC, that talks about, well, Bernie Sanders or even Elizabeth Warren, not electable. These ideas are not electable, even though every data point shows the opposite. Every piece of data shows the vast majority of Americans are on the sides of Bernie and Warren when it comes to these issues. And Bernie is building the movement in order to win an election. He has the grassroots movement. He has over 4 million donations. No candidate even comes close. Bernie hit 1 million individual donors in September. Again, no candidate has even hit 1 million individual donors yet. And Bernie hit that in September. He has the movement. He has the support. He has the volunteers. That's how you win a general election. Bernie has the movement. And he has that movement on the kinds of ideas that Anand is talking about here. On ideas like Medicare for all, on canceling student debt, on free college for all, on the Green New Deal. The vast majority of Americans are with Bernie Sanders on these issues. They're not with Bret Stephens and the plutocrats. And wasn't all of this should have been dispelled in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost. She was the moderate. The idea, if a progressive had lost in 2016, we would not be hearing the end of it. Every single day on air, they'd be talking about, well, you can't run a progressive. They lost in 2016. But Hillary loses. It means nothing. Oh, total aberration. Hillary just happened to lose in the election. Just so happens that it doesn't mean anything. She lost. Let's learn nothing at all from any of this. Let's continue to push this idea that only a moderate can win, even though moderates continue to lose every damn race. Unbelievable. But that's my input here. Anand's input was a little more substantial. All right. Let me get to all the super chats. Bring in your super chats. Bring in your questions or comments. And let me center this. RationalNational.com/join. Become a patron. Support the show. This video, I guarantee you, is demonetized already. I swore a few times. That, in addition to the stories I covered, like the death at Amazon, these are stories that get demonetized. So this video was demonetized. I'm able to rely on patron support. So RationalNational.com/join. Become a patron. You can also donate through PayPal. So all the links are below the video. You'll see you can become a member. You can donate through PayPal, paypal.me/David Dole. You can also give through or become a YouTube member as well. All right. Let me get to the questions now. The super chats. There's a lot here. Let's hope I didn't miss anybody. Okay. I think I read this one. All right. Sam O says, I think this is a follow-up to telling me to watch The Irishman on Netflix. Sam O says, De Niro, Pacino, and Pesci were great. A Scorsese classic. All right, I'll check it out. Beckett Great Dane sends a $5 super chat. No message. Thank you. El Dwadubu sends a $10 super chat. No message. Thank you. Enclave sends a super chat saying Adriana Legrand. What? Sorry. For a second, I thought you were talking about Ariana Grande, and I got really confused. Adriana Lagrange, Alberta Minister of Education. You have to see this insanity. She wants politics out of social studies. Check out her tweet. Sure, let me check it out. I got to say, I have no idea what's going on in Alberta. But let me check out this tweet. The problem is, can I find it? I imagine she's tweeted a number of times. It may be hard to find this.
When you have rational national priorities.
All right, I'm gonna have to take your word for it because if you sent the link in the super chat doesn't allow links to go forward, so I can't I can't spend all day here scrolling on this. But I believe you. I believe you. The Alberta government is, I mean, from what I've been following, not good. Not good at all. But, yeah, that sounds pretty shitty. Kalal Google staffers, what a name, says, healthcare is a public responsibility more than a human right. We live and work too close to pretend our neighbor's health does not affect our own. We could say it's both. It's a human right and a public responsibility, but I get your point. Cyrus 1976 says 1948 Truman DNC acceptance speech. Full, a must. Again, if it's a link, there's no link here for me. It doesn't include the link. But hey, if you want to go watch the Truman DNC acceptance speech from 1948, go right ahead. Someone sends a super chat, $20, very generous. With a gift that says, you are amazing. Thank you. Tisha Taylor, super chat, no message. Thank you. Ryan Kornleoff sends me a flame and a muscle. Thank you so much. Michael Cuomo says the overpaid commentators on MSNBC, so-called liberal network, will vote Trump over Bernie, but will vote Bloomberg over Trump. Yeah, totally. So the, I don't know, I guess 10 people at MSNBC that Bernie's going to lose. Okay. Oh, no. Bernie risks losing the millionaire host on MSNBC. Tisha Taylor again says, do you think that the DNC will reject Bernie Sanders as their candidate to appease big donors? They can be shady and corrupt like they were in 2016. They can't. No. I mean, look, if it goes to a second ballot, they're going to try to fight him, I think. But they can't, no. If Bernie wins a nomination, he wins a nomination. I mean, you saw it in 2016 when there was all this talk about, oh, can Trump really win the nomination? Or are they going to try and overturn? There's all this talk about how they're going to try and I guess overturn the will of the people, essentially, when it came to the Trump nomination, and they never did. So I don't see them. I don't see them breaking their own rules. So they'll work within the rules to try and defeat Bernie, but we'll see how that goes. I mean, the energy, the movement is behind him. If there's any any attempt to screw him, there will be havoc. There will be insanity. So let's hope we don't go down that path. Daft Bread says, how should Bernie's team compensate for the media's blackout while boomers and older only watch corporate news and not independent leftist YouTube? It's hard because you have to go to where those people are. You have to go to where the boomers are. So putting ads out on television is the most effective way, I think, for Bernie to try and compete against that. There's really not many options he has. I mean, he could maybe put an ad out saying, hey, check out this media on YouTube. that may not come off right. So he has to just put out ads, TV ads. He has to go where the boomers are. That's kind of his only hope, really. Also, door knocking. I mean, door knocking, phone banking, that also is a major part of raising awareness, I guess, of the Bernie campaign and what he supports. And also his electability. Again, focus on electability. So when they do have the ability to put an ad out or phone bank or whatever, and you're on the phone or you're at the door of somebody who's like 60 plus, and they're like a Biden voter because, oh, Biden can win. That person, because they're a Biden voter, likely their second choice is Bernie Sanders, as we saw earlier looking at the data. So that means they can be swayed to Bernie Sanders. So to sway them to Bernie Sanders, you have to talk about Bernie's electability, how Biden actually isn't electable, how Biden is actually more like Hillary Clinton, where we all thought Hillary was the most electable and she lost. And they're trying to push that same narrative again with Joe Biden. So points like this or like these are what you have to bring up when talking to boomers. Electability, I think, for most of them is the issue because they really want to see Donald Trump out. And if they think Bernie, if they like Bernie, but they think he can't win, they're not going to vote for him. So you have to make that point. Because, look, I think everybody at this point, even a lot of people that don't pay too close attention, they know Bernie's an honest guy. They know what he's fighting for. They know he's fighting for the average person. The worry for a lot of these older voters, especially, if you're an older voter and you're comfortable, you don't really need, I don't know, free college, for example, or you don't need a student debt to be canceled. They're more complacent and they think, well, even though I like Bernie, I'm going to vote for Biden because Morning Joe tells me Biden can win and Bernie can't win, which is just not true. You have to just show them history. Hillary lost, the ultimate moderate. Biden does not have the energy. You need young people to canvass. You need people out to volunteer for you. Door knocking, phone banking in a general election against Trump. Biden doesn't have that energy. Bernie has that movement, that energy behind him. That's how you sell these people on the electability. Where was I? Buddha says, can't wait to see how awkward the mainstream media will be when Bernie wins the nomination. They hate Trump, but I believe they hate Bernie even more. There's going to be a huge push for a third-party candidate. That's what's going to happen. So if Bernie wins the nomination, that's what's going to happen. There will be a huge push, or potentially, if the unthinkable happens and Trump's removed from office, then they'll be pushing the Republican. Is likely what's going to happen. But, the most likely scenario is Trump. as the Republican nominee, as the president. So, yeah, I've often thought about this as well, is how will the mainstream media react if Bernie's the nominee and you have Trump on the other side? What are they going to say? Because at that point, it's going to be really hard to ignore the data. It's going to be really hard to ignore polling, to ignore Bernie's favorability. All of this is going to be really hard for the media to ignore. These data points they normally hit on. I mean, think about this. They used to always talk about the money race. Mainstream media was all about the money race. Who's raising the most money? I feel like that has barely been brought up at all this election cycle. And it's because Bernie's raising the most money, and he's doing it with no corporate money, no corporate PACs, no private fundraisers, only with individual donors. So when that can no longer be a talking point, the money race to be used against progressive candidates, all of a sudden it's never discussed anymore. Not even brought up the fact that Bernie's leading in the money race, that he has the most donations by far. 4 million individual donations. No candidate comes close. Bernie's breaking his own 2016 records, and his 2016 records broke Obama's 2008 records. None of this is being brought up. Money was talked about all the time before, and now it's not being talked about. So maybe they'll try to ignore a lot of these sorts of narratives, but we'll have to see how they react if Bernie wins the nomination. DB sends a super chat saying, "Get a decent humidifier." You know what? I was talking about that earlier, off camera. But yeah, totally a humidifier is what I need, and maintain it weekly, bro. Yeah, you're right. I need a humidifier. Like my lips are chapping, like while I'm on air. Weird stuff's going on. Like my knuckles especially get really dry. I put on moisturizer on my hands earlier, and it's like, they're cracking. It's crazy. KJ sends a super chat. Thank you. No message. Enclave sends a super chat saying, "You're so close. Literally the next tweet." Oh. Let me go down. Okay, I see. So let's go. So this is the tweet from the let me read your initial super chat. Adriana Lagrange, Alberta Minister of Education. So this is what she tweeted out. Let me bring it up. Right here. I did get really close. It is concerning that anybody would think that these were appropriate questions for a grade 10. Okay, what's the question? Let's first read her thing here. Sands development will tear a hole in Canada's lungs. Oil sands development. And the problem is, this is true. So, you got an issue with facts. It is concerning that anybody would think that these were appropriate questions for a grade 10 social studies test. Alberta has a great story to tell about our responsible energy sector, and educators should not be attacking it. We'll get politics out of the classroom. You know what? My hope is people like this are directly impacted by climate change. However it is, whether your house is flooded, whatever the hell it is, I hope you feel the direct impact, because millions of people are feeling it right now. People like this are totally fucking ignorant. I hate them. They need to feel like people like these sorts of thinkers, these conservative thinkers, they need to feel like the way that they're able to learn about stuff is if something personally affects them. So you saw this with gay marriage. All conservatives against gay marriage until, oh, my son's gay, or my brother's gay, or my nephew's gay. All of a sudden now they support gay marriage once it directly impacts someone in their lives. Same thing with any issue. So Adriana Lagrange here, she needs to feel the actual impact of climate change for her to recognize that it is a serious issue. Like this kind of BS is just, it's going to continue happening because they're totally disconnected. And some of them are lying, obviously. Like, it's possible she's just being completely disingenuous. But like, who knows? All right, that's enough of this person. Enough negativity for today. Let's get back to super chats. KJ on Super Chat says, the Irishman demonstrates how the mob helped JFK. Really? All right. Cloud Super Chat says, thoughts on theory that Hillary pushed Tulsi Russia link to hurt Bernie. Man, that is some 3D chess right there. I guess it's possible. I mean, so I guess the thought process there is that Hillary calling out Tulsi actually energized people to support Tulsi, which ultimately I guess hurts Bernie because Tulsi is, I guess, an anti-establishment vote, much like Bernie is. But honestly, I don't think that's the case. I think Hillary Clinton is just completely unaware of her impact. I think she thinks people listen to her and they love her. So when she says something, they'll be like, you're right, Hillary. We hate Tulsi too. Let's never talk about Tulsi again, which of course was the opposite. So I don't think that's the case. I think Hillary thought that her calling out Tulsi or calling her link to Russia or whatever would hurt Tulsi Gabbard, and it never did. JC stands for Jesus Christ. Well, then type Jesus Christ. Sorry, that was from a super chat. Cloud says JC stands for Jesus Christ. So you should have typed that earlier. And Bernie is a Jew. Help me figure out which is the second or first coming of the Messiah. Sometimes I get super chats. I just don't know where to go with them. I don't know. How about that? I have no idea. There is no coming of the Messiah. Let's just put it that way. Jessica Hillman says, Third Way plans go to our Medicare for All events to misinform. That wouldn't surprise me. I would like some reporting on that, though. I mean, you're a super chat. Not saying I don't believe you, but I haven't heard about this until now. But that totally makes sense that they would do that. And also completely disgusting. Bringing in more super chats. We're at 2 hours now. Look at that. Though there was a little dip in the middle of the show when it went off air for no reason. But otherwise, we're doing pretty good here. Oh my God, the chat is crazy. Okay, I need to get some mods. It's just like, I see Progressive Voice in here. Look at that. It was scrolling so fast and I still saw Progressive Voice. David Dole is a paid shill. He gets paid by Chick-fil-A. Don't trust him. It's all true. I've never even been to Chick-fil-A. Also, I don't eat chicken anymore, unfortunately. I kind of miss it, but I stopped eating all meat. So, and yeah, that's what happens. But there is some good chicken replacements. You can find some good vegan chicken wings. But I will say, I kind of wish I could have like a Popeye's chicken burger sometimes. Kind of curious. I don't think we even have Chick-fil-A in Canada. But Progressive Voice, your trolling is on point today. On point. And so, by the way, some of your messages for some reason are being hidden. And you're not even saying bad words. You're just saying to sub to somebody. And it's hiding it automatically. I don't know why. But just letting you know. All right. Back to super chats. Hey, if you want one of your comments read, Progressive Voice, another comment. Got a super chat. Sorry. I can't read all the other stuff you're saying that you really want me to say or spread. Okay, what else is going on here? Rock Lee sends a super chat saying, show YouTube clip George Gage versus Kevin Chappelle. Kamala. I don't know what this is. Let me look it up briefly. Here's the thing. Whenever anybody sends me anything, any video, just oh, this is a long clip. 32 minutes. Yeah, I'm not going to play this. Sorry. I'm not going to play a 32-minute video. But thank you. Chris Adam sends a super chat saying, did you see the View's take on Warren's fall in polling because, quote, people don't support Medicare, said Sonny. Really, are they that disconnected? Yeah, they are. The View is so bad. You know what's funny? My mom sometimes will text me, be like, did you see The View say this? I think it's her way of saying she kind of wants me to cover more stuff on The View. Because she knows how ridiculous, because she watches my show, obviously. She knows how ridiculous a lot of the stuff they say is, but it's disturbing how much misinformation The View spreads to millions of people. But again, my hope is, look, sure, it's millions of people, but that is still just a small segment of the overall population. If you have most people supporting policies and not watching, or supporting policies like Medicare for All or whatever, and not watching The View, that's actually the bigger number than The View. So, or there are people like me or my mom who watch The View and know they're full of crap, but watch the show anyways because they enjoy the banter. So, yeah, at the same time, it is very concerning that they put out that kind of misinformation. Beckett Great Dane sends us $5 super chat. Thank you, Beckett. DB sends a super chat saying, ooh, new Bernie ad just dropped. Amazon workers. You don't say. Let's do that right now. Thank you. Let me check the Bernie Twitter feed. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing this. Let's watch this together. All right, I'll go small so we can see a bigger version of this.
When we did the strike during Prime Day, it wasn't just focused on wages, but looking at how we can make the entire jobs better at Amazon.
Amazon is $1 trillion company. Working conditions can be much better than they are right now.
I've been working at this warehouse for about 2.5 years, and I've seen a lot of good friends of mine get injured. It's the same injuries over and over, whether it's wrist injuries, knee injuries, back or spine injuries.
By the time the shift was done, my back was killing me. I was in real pain. My back felt like it was coming apart.
We have a lot of issues around the pace of the work, the injuries that result from that.
I actually do get 4 to 5 hours of sleep. It's hitting the number they're expecting you. It's hitting the quota that they want you to. So for me, I feel like half the time in the back of my head is making sure I'm hitting that number hour by hour by hour.
None of this fighting and none of this struggle just for safe working conditions and for a job that allows people to live in dignity should be necessary in the first place. One job should be enough to live our lives with dignity. You shouldn't need to work 2 or 3 jobs to get by. I have lost a lot of money, several $1,000s recently, helping my grandma get through cancer. I mean, she's been a really important part of my life growing up. Not everyone has that.
When the $15 wage change was announced by Amazon as a result of the pressure from Senator Sanders, the rest of the country, there were workers at other Amazon fulfillment centers and warehouses that got a significant boost. Bernie Sanders has got a strong track record of standing up for workers and Amazon workers in particular.
He's just awesome. He's done so much and he's been so consistent in fighting for workers and fighting for individuals like us.
I think that he cares about the people. You know, he actually sees that these people are struggling. He sees the condition. He notices it and he actually wants to be a part of it.
We can do better here. There's many other countries that have better healthcare systems. They have better workers' rights. And we should be bringing that to America. And we should be making America a better place. It is a unique thing in American politics to have a major figure like Bernie Sanders that has for so long stood with workers like he has.
He's for the people, he's for the families. I feel like he could really make change.
As long as you push and you try to make positive change, you can. I think Bernie is the candidate that we need today. He knows how to build movements, and that is one of the biggest ways of bringing change.
Wow. That was really good. I mean, it's hard to even know what to say to that. Yeah, obviously. Bernie's been at this forever. He's on the side of workers. On the side of Amazon workers, got them to raise wages. And yeah, the kind of crap that Amazon workers have to deal with, warehouse workers especially have to deal with, it's unbelievable. Thank you a lot for sharing that, by the way. Thank you, DB. Much appreciated. Liz Biesmere. I'm sorry, I butchered your last name. I made a $100 bet with a MAGA guy that Bernie wins the Democratic nomination. Do you think I'm going to win? I do think you're going to win, Liz. You're going to be $100 richer. You just got to wait a bit, but I think it's going to happen. Jessica Hillman says, have a video at an event on me taking on a troll. You have a video at an event on you? Are you saying someone should shoot it? So this is Jessica Hillman was saying earlier how third way plants, people that work at Third Way are going to Medicare for All events to misinform people about Medicare for All. If you got a video about that, that'd be cool. Unfortunately, you can't share links in Super Chat, so it's going to be hard for me to find that link. But if you have a video, if that's what you're saying, then tweet it at me. I'll look through my tweets. All right. All right. That appears to be the last of the Super Chats. I don't think there's any more coming in, or if they're coming, get them in right now, because I got to go soon. But let me I'm checking the normal chat now. This thing moves a mile a minute. How does anybody have a conversation in this? I don't know. Progressive Voice, I don't know why it's hiding like most of your messages. Progressive Voice says, hey, David, can you give me a shout out? My sub count is stuck. Shout out to Progressive Voice. My sub count's stuck too. So this is what's happening. YouTube is they're not putting our videos, independent media videos, in suggested videos. They're not putting it in searches. It's obvious from looking at our numbers, at least looking at my numbers and from what I'm hearing from other people as well, looking at their numbers over the past 6 months, there's been a clear change. So as should be normal under YouTube, any YouTube channel would get most of their views from people that are not subscribed, because that's how people come across videos. They search a topic, or they find something randomly, or it's in suggested videos, or it auto-plays next video. That's how most people generally, forever, consume videos on YouTube. They're not subscribed to the people. But over the past 6 months, that's changed. So it used to be like most views were like 70% non-subs, and then the rest were subs. Now it's completely reversed. So what I'm seeing now is something like as low as like 15% of people are not subbed that watch my videos. So the vast majority, like 85% of people that watch my videos, are already subscribers, meaning that I'm just talking to the same audience over and over again. And look, I love all you people, you're great, but kind of the point of videos, the point of the videos that I put out is to inform people. So I want to get in new people that are not used to hearing these ideas, these perspectives. So if all I'm doing are talking to the same people over and over again, our ideas are not getting out there. But clearly behind the scenes, something intentional is going on. Now, I'm not saying they're intentionally silencing me or Progressive Voice or anybody else, but what they are doing is they're prioritizing corporate media outlets. They're prioritizing MSNBC, CNN. I think even New York Times has videos. Like these corporate outlets that have, websites that have articles, they prioritize those outlets over independent media. So even though we are the backbone of YouTube, independent creators are the backbone of YouTube, they are now pushing us aside to the benefit of these massive media organizations. And if anybody, on here was on YouTube just like 4 years ago, MSNBC, CNN were getting like no views on their videos. Like they'd be lucky to hit 1,000 in most cases on their videos on YouTube. After the whole fake news uproar and outrage, there was a quick shift because YouTube began to prioritize and platform those mainstream media channels and downplay everybody else. So we're seeing the effect on our sub count. We're seeing the effect on our views. It's obvious, which is why supporting our channels and subbing to us, sub to Progressive Voice. Go look up the Progressive Voice. I actually do watch his videos quite a bit, I got to say. He does good stuff. So check out the Progressive Voice. But sub to us, share us, and also, let me get up the graphic here. RationalNational.com/join. That gets you to the Patreon page. There's also a direct link below this video. You could also just go to patreon.com/TheRationalNational. It's the same link. And sub to us or sub to me there. I think I heard another super chat. Let me just see if there's one up before I get out of here. So again, make sure your super chat is in right now as I'm winding down here. Tomilik says, what brand of shirt are you wearing? I honestly have no idea. Most of my clothes comes from my girlfriend. So she has, she's kind of the fashionista. So that's where I get my stuff. But I do like this shirt though, I gotta say. It's got a bunch of tiny flowers. You can barely see them. DB sends another super chat saying, what are any resources you value keeping up with? Any resources that I value? Like, you mean like where I read the news and stuff? Honestly, Twitter is like the hub for everything. So whatever people are talking about, I'll normally see on Twitter, and it's from all over the place. I mean, it can be from any outlet. It can be from small, big. Like I don't generally go to particular websites and read what they have out. Though I got to say, Jacobin, I do go there a lot. I like what they put out generally. So Jacobin, I like a lot. New Republic has a lot of good stuff. Current Affairs is fantastic. But otherwise, it's kind of just Twitter curates it. I follow a lot of people that are, engaged in these issues, so I get to see sort of what is going on, and that's kind of how I get most of my stuff. I'm hearing more super chats near the end here. People are getting excited. Getting excited for their questions to be answered. TCB 101 says, a hunka Bernie love. TCB 2020 GOAT. All right, there you go. Totally. Kalal sends another super chat. Thank you, Kalal. No message, but thank you. All right. Is that it? Are you done? Is everyone done? Nintendude. I know you, though I'm probably saying your name wrong. Nintendo14 says, if you had, this is a random chat, I'm picking up a random chat here. If you had to rank Dems on tier list, what would it look like? Here's the thing with lists. Kind of don't matter because it's all about Bernie. So if you don't support Bernie Sanders, then get the hell out of here. But I assume you're asking about ranking the 2020 candidates. I don't know. I guess Elizabeth Warren second, but like way down the list. And then we're talking about, I don't know. I honestly don't know who I'd put third. I'll be here a while. I don't think there's anybody I would put in third. I have no idea. The rest are just kind of like whatever. Like, yeah, that's kind of... Progressive Voice in at the last minute with the important question. How do I feel about dry jacking? Now, this is a question I've thought about for a while. I mean, he brought this up a while ago to some other progressive hosts. And now it's brought up to me, and I have to answer it. How do I feel about dry jacking? I guess the answer is... The answer is, what does it mean exactly? Because it can mean two different things. I've heard two different definitions. How do I say this PG-wise? There's a version of this definition that is about not using anything slippery. And then there is a version of this term, dryjacking, that is about not finishing what you started. So I'm not sure if it's about not finishing what you started or if it's about not using anything slippery. I think that's the most PG way I can answer it. Either way, though, not using anything slippery, I mean, is there any other way? Not finishing what you started, that's just psychotic. I don't know why you would do that. So that's how I answer that question. Look, I actually answered it. You send me a super chat, I'm going to answer your question. I answered it even though that was very hard to answer in a way that is PG. But there you go. All right. Thank you for coming. Man, that was a bad thing to say at the end of that last question. But thank you for being here. And next time, I'll be here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Come in here, have a good time, watch me cover stories. And what I'm going to start to do, maybe, possibly, is do half of these where, so I do basically 4 of these a month, these live streams a month, and I keep them open for everybody. But potentially, there may be 1 or 2 times a month now where I keep this unlisted, or I keep it for, I should say, members only once I'm done. And then I still cut up the clips, like the clips that I use, and that all goes public. But I do want to give members more content, right? So by kind of forcing people to be here while I'm live, or if you can't be here, then become a member. It gives you the ability to kind of get all the content, so you'll have access to the entire streams. Again, I haven't figured out the details yet, but I do want to give patrons a little more to work with. Though I got to say, we got a Discord. So my Patreon, if you're a Patreon or a patron, you can access the Discord. Same with YouTube members. There should be a link under the community section that gets to the Discord as well. So you can join the Discord. I'm going to be a little more active in that now. I was kind of absent for a bit because I was in the middle of a long move, but I'll be there now more often. So you get access to the Discord. You also get early videos. So oftentimes when I put a video out, it gets demonetized. So I submit it for review. If a video is demonetized, then I send it out to patrons first and YouTube members first, so you can see the video before anybody else can. And then once it gets remonetized, or if it gets remonetized, then I put it out for everybody. So you get early access videos, Discord, and potentially exclusive live streams or access to live streams once they're done. All right. Thanks again. RationalNational.com/join. Just doing a quick refresh just to make sure I did get everything, because I think I did. Okay, good. All right. Later. See you next week.